Black Adam has been the hardest work I've ever put in my career, and when I tell you I went to work, I went to work.
Black Adam utilizes some incredible visual effects. The world we see on screen is actually completely different than what's going on behind the scenes. Let's get into it.
Well, I do.
Number 1. Something you might think would be simple, but was actually incredibly difficult. There was no practical Dr. Fate suit or cape on set. He never wore one. It was all added in post with CG. Pierce Brosnan had to wear a costume with a ton of tracking markers all over him, due to how much CGI was going to be added to his body. He truly didn't even know what he would end up looking like as Dr. Fate. One of the most difficult aspects of this was blending his body movements with the costume, especially because it was supposed to be skin tight. A major aspect they had to work on was when he turns his head from side to side or says certain syllables when you see his Adam's apple move. It was all meticulously computer generated.
Be prepared.
Number 2. Let's talk about Black Adam's introduction. At the beginning of the movie, when Adriana calls Shazam and Black Adam appears inside the Rock of Eternity, there is some major VFX work going on. When they're inside the chamber, to achieve that sequence, they photographed live-action props and a set in the foreground. But the rest of it was entirely CG. There were about 150 shots in that sequence alone. They were able to pick and choose the shots they wanted and put them all together by the end of it. Number 3. A completely new type of flight rig was created for Black Adam. Apparently, director Jean Collet-Serra was determined to eliminate the limitations of the usual flight stunts you'd see in movies. Producer Hiram Garcia talked with Collider about how important this technology was for the film. The technology we're using to make Black Adam fly has never been done before. It's completely unique. It was critical for us to ensure that it felt special, authentic, and real, as well as turn him around at a full 360-degree angle. I never got on any wires. I was on this really cool advanced machine that allowed me to lay flat. I think fans will really appreciate the detail and nuance of how Black Adam is able to fly with real rage and power and force.
You just dropped the
Number 4. Sticking with Black Adam's appearance in the Rock of Eternity, there was a scene that was majorly daunting for the VFX supervisors. The moment when Black Adam grabs one of the mercenaries by the neck and electrocutes him until he dissolves and turns into ash was one of the most challenging shots they had to get. They had to blend the CGI effects with an actual person, not an alien or monster, so the challenge was making it look realistic, like an actual human being was being fried. Number 5. Some major brainstorming had to be done to figure out what they would look like on screen.
He's a man who is bestowed with this power of the helmet of Nabu, which is kind of a blessing and a curse.
Due to his powers being so complex and important for the movie's narrative, they went back and forth with some stills and comic book shots between the filmmakers and the visual effects supervisors in order to figure out what they were going to do. What ended up happening was some experimentation on a completely different character. A sequence that unfortunately did not make the cut, before actually applying that CG to Dr. Fate.
When it's time for you and I to say goodbye, you'll know.
Number 6. Another CGI aspect that could be overlooked. When Black Adam first appears in the Rock of Eternity and the mercenaries are shooting at him, he's wearing this big black cloak that's being shredded to pieces. When they shot it on set, it was just Dwayne Johnson in a cloak, but nothing else was actually happening. So they had to go in and add a bunch of sparks coming off of him, as well as make the cloth react and shred to what was supposed to be going on. They even had to make sure you could see the fibers in the cloth because it was shot so close up.
Open fire!
Number 7. This CGI effect was actually one of the simpler things they got to do. When Black Adam enters Adriana's apartment, he doesn't use the door. He just goes through the wall. The artists who made this effect happen used the program Houdini and were able to crank it out relatively quickly. They managed to get the desired effect in only 1 or 2 iterations of the scene.
I did it your way.
He does have a point.
Number 8. At Digital Domain, they use a particular technology to create their CG characters. The tech is called Charlatan, and they weren't even sure they were going to use it when making the film, but wanted to get all the shots in just in case. What that consists of is having the actual actors on set and shooting them from every angle you could imagine so they could record and save certain facial expressions. They would then input all of that into the computer, so later, when they're animating the characters, they could apply any of those elements at any moment to make them look more photorealistic.
We won't see him again.
Number 9. What's going on behind the scenes is vastly different from what we see on screen. Let's talk about the number of green screens used to make this movie. It's not super interesting, but 90% of the film was shot in front of them. The other 10% were LEDs. They had LED content they had to create with multiple vendors. They had 2 different LED stages, one in Atlanta, Georgia, and the other one in Los Angeles, California. There were at least a dozen visual effects studios that helped create the film's effects.
Did he just catch a rocket?
Number 10. We all know lighting is one of the most important things when shooting a movie. One of the programs they used, called Unreal, allowed them to adjust the lighting in real time. Usually after shooting, if you want to change the color of the sky or location of the sun, you would have to edit it after, and wouldn't be able to see the results the next day. With Unreal, the artists were able to adjust the lighting in real time and play around with different colors and effects, which gave the production team a major speed boost when it came to getting everything done.
Woo! Look at that suit. It's cool.
Thanks. You too.
Number 11. The movie utilized all the cutting-edge technology money could buy. Dwayne spilled some behind-the-scenes secrets on Instagram about the high-end technology that was being used to capture his movements. They used a high-speed phantom camera that was able to shoot him at 960 frames per second, which is insane compared to the usual 24 frames per second used for most movies. Operating at 40 times the usual capture rate, this was definitely not your average movie setup.
They look alive to me.
Because I saved them.
Number 12. People all over the world worked on this movie. A lot of the work to create the visual effects were done remotely. There was a visual effects team in Los Angeles, Montreal, Vancouver, and Hyderabad, India. There were even individual artists working in Germany, Ontario, Portland, and Florida. Because the film was shot during the COVID pandemic, everyone had the option to work from home. Even those who couldn't all of the time were able to do a hybrid style of work.
There are only heroes and there are villains.
You think yourself a hero?
Black Adam uses new age technology, a workforce from all over the world, a plethora of green screens, and a talented crew who really know their way around digital effects. Throw in the incredible Black Adam lore taken directly from the comics? What more could you want? Leave a comment and let us know what your favorite CGI moment was.